Croker Down Intermediate Football Championship by defeating a gallant Ballymartin team. And obviously we're very proud of what the players and the management have done, because the senior team are your shop window. They inspire other people in the club. And we're also conscious that they now enter the Ulster Club Championship. And
but you've come on in leaps and bounds, haven't you, that club?
Well, we have, but we shouldn't be, I hope this is the last time we're celebrating an intermediate success in Down for a long time. Our place is in the top division.
That's where you're going.
And we need to build upon these foundations for an exciting future. I think the good news is that equally, this team has a lot of potential. It's a young team, and hopefully they will get an opportunity to display that potential in the Ulster Championship over the next few weeks.
Well, good luck is all I can say. Certainly, as always, you very, very elegantly and tastefully decorate Warren Point with your blue and white.
Well,
even the elk is.
Yes, but I think now the appropriate thing is one thing putting the bunting up, it's another thing taking it down. So we plan, weather permitting. I think it'll come down tomorrow evening.
How wonderful it is to hear that in a world of tattered national emblems on telephone poles, where people don't care about these things.
I can only tell you that's the plan anyway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thomas Braham is very kindly helping us.
Thomas is a good lad.
Teleporter.
Reared beside him in the meadow when the Brahams when the father was a man there. You said something there, God rest the father, George Braham. He was a great oil man in your years.
That was his grandfather, yes.
It was his grandfather.
Grandfather, yeah.
Goodness gracious, would you tell me where time goes?
You're giving your age away.
I certainly am.
His father would be Paul Braham.
Paul, of course. Good man. Paul's very involved with the Lions. You were saying about Jim Fitzpatrick starting something new there. What was it?
Yeah, see, he's launching a new 20-minute, I think it's I could be wrong, probably a new radio program, The Profit Margin.
There we are. That's interesting. Who's doing it for him? I don't know that. Well, I do. That's Mr. Fitzpatrick there.
Oh yeah, young Jim.
Himself.
That's the head of First Trust Bank, Des Moore, and to the right side is Professor
Angela Merkel.
No, that's Professor. A very influential and a very nice lady. That's Professor Mary McHugh, the Dean of the Business Faculty at the University of Ulster.
I used, when I was running Radio Current Affairs in the BBC and had responsibility for Good Morning Ulster, Newsbreak and PM Ulster, the man I used to get was always John Simpson.
John Simpson.
John still does stuff, I see.
John's still there, yeah.
Still there doing his thing.
John lectured me economics, actually.
Yeah, economics. He would come in and he would talk about economics to me and all.
Very nice man.
That was a constant thing. Now, the Republic, a non-austerity budget today.
Yeah, well, I think, to be fair, it is. I would be hopeful that Michael Noonan will be able to hold his nerve and not clanger to the course of lobby groups trying to get him to be too generous in this budget. I mean, the background to this is that this was the final of the austerity budget agreed originally with the European Central Bank and the IMF, and there should have been a £2 billion euro adjustment in this budget, the final one. As a result of a significant increase in tax revenues in the last 9 months, there certainly is an argument to perhaps stall on part of that £2 billion adjustment. I think it would be unfortunate if he was in too big an election mode and we have the whole discipline of the originally planned £2 billion adjustment. I think that there is no doubt about it that times are, individuals know times have been tough, but we will reap the benefits of this if we're patient. If we jump back in and don't learn the lessons of the past, then unfortunately we will regret it.
They have their work cut out, because I was in Dublin on Saturday and 60,000 people congregating on
water charges.
On the water charge issue on O'Connell Street, and they were angry people,
Yeah, but anger doesn't achieve much. It doesn't put anything on the table either. And maybe if those people were using their energies to be productive, as opposed to
you see, there is a fundamental truth, and the government says it. If you want quality public services, you've got to pay for them.
You sure do, and I mean, none of us wants to pay for anything if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, water is fundamental. We cannot have systems that we're not paying for.
Yeah.
And whatever, I think the big debate is that the system of payment should be fair. But I think, to be honest, that the working people are getting frustrated that if everyone isn't paying for the thing equally. And I think that the one thing that we're learning, I suspect in the South, but right throughout the world, is that you can only put so much pressure on the working woman or man. Thereafter, the burden must be spread among everyone. And this is where this whole welfare debate is taking place as well.
Well, it's Peter McVerry was alluding to it on Saturday in the Irish Times, Father Peter, who works with the drug addicted young people.
Great man,
huge man of Newry as well.
Yeah, great man, yeah.
So Peter was saying, that the housing thing could be sorted out by Christmas if they had a mind to do it and approaching. And he was regretting and bemoaning the fact that the greatest tax relief in this budget is seemingly going to come for those who are richest in the country. And he was making that point very strenuously.
Well, I think that's wrong if that's the case. I think that I do believe that everyone is entitled to a house. It's one of those fundamentals I have a strong belief in. I think that a clean house, a safe house, not necessarily the largest house in town. And I think that we've got to get back to basics. And within that context, I must say, I do believe that people are entitled to respect, people are entitled to have a quality of life that at least allows them to get up each morning with a vision for the day. And within that context, Ron, I have to say that I do believe that equally that people who are on benefits, and there are many genuine people on benefits, should be conscious that any working on the double is counterproductive.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I don't know how we get this across to people, but it should be socially unacceptable to work on the double.
Absolutely. And let's go forward into a healthier kind of economic
Because what's happening is
environment.
it's wrecking business, because the genuine person who's paying his taxes and his overheads and his rates, all of a sudden he can't compete with the person who has the benefit subsidy who's going out to work that evening in somebody's house or on pub. So the pressures on that person to get income to feed their family or to look after themselves, one understands. But somewhere, just as frauding the tax man, frauding as opposed to tax planning, legitimate tax planning, tax avoidance is legitimate, tax evasion is fraud. Just as tax evasion is now becoming socially unacceptable across Europe, I think that equally, I think abuse of the benefit system should be the same.
Europe's looking carefully at the Irish, double Irish tax loophole. Big companies, blue chip companies have benefited from that in the past. That's apparently now going to be tackled in the budget.
Yeah, well, I think the big issue here is that the corporation tax rate has been a key element of the mix to attract foreign direct investment into Ireland for 25, 30 years now. Actually, over 30 years, the early 60s. And people have been watching from the outside, and Europe is getting stricter and stricter. OECD are carrying out reviews. So I think what will happen is that the world is gradually beginning to realise how effective the low corporation tax rate was. And the double tax thing is a technical mechanism where you can reduce your effective rate of tax to nearly minimal levels by also utilising a thing called transfer pricing between countries and jurisdictions. So I think that it's coming under closer scrutiny. The Republic will definitely want to hold on to its 12.5% tax for trade companies, corporation tax. So I think you will see it trying to quietly address the concerns of Europe and OECD.
Where are we on that corporation tax thing? We would love to be similar to the Republic and have that kind of magnet to those we want to encourage in, but we're still buried in grants, are we?
We're moving because a number of things are dictating that. We're no longer Objective 1 status within Europe, so the same level of grants aren't received from Europe and can't be offered. Secondly, I think post the Scottish referendum it would be reasonable to expect that Westminster will devolve tax-raising powers to the local devolved assemblies. I'm a very strong advocate, and have been for many years, you know, of the introduction of the low tax.
Absolutely.
I think it will happen within the next 12 months. I think it'll probably be phased in, and the actual rate itself may not come in for a couple of years, but it'll be announced, which is actually from an FDI, foreign direct investment point of view, that's very important, because most foreign direct investment takes at least 24 months or longer to plan.
So tax responsibilities devolved to the administrations in Edinburgh and in Belfast and in Wales. But there's a dangerous enough thing I was warned about this week, that Cameron is talking about preventing, for instance, Scottish members of the Legislative Assembly there, to prevent them from voting on English matters. So that's another way of breaking the UK.
Well, I'm not sure it is, Ron. I think that there are devolved issues that I think, to be fair, that rather than set up a separate English Parliament or a separate Welsh Parliament, I think it makes fairness to say that on certain devolved issues, that non-resident MPs in that jurisdiction.
Yes, I hear what you're saying.
So I don't have an issue with that. I think the larger strategic issues will always be a Westminster in terms of the United Kingdom.
Inflation to be lowest since 2009, set for a new 5-year low when the official figures are published this morning. What's the significance of that?
Well, that's very significant, because inflation is a key factor in two things. Number one, it's very significant in terms of UK bank interest rates, the Bank of England rates, because one of the key performance indicators their target we're trying to meet is to keep inflation below a certain level. If they don't do that, they have to raise interest rates. If interest rates rise, that's a massive knock-on effect on all our spending power. So that's very good news. Secondly, it's very important for exports and international competitiveness, in that if you can keep your cost base down, you can maybe sell to more and more people around the world. I think what it does show is there's a level of caution now there, particularly in the cost side of most businesses. You know, I was in company yesterday morning. I think it's a fair reflection. I can't think of anybody present who's earning more money now than they were 5 years ago. Most people are earning less, and I think we're going to have to do with less. I think we're going to have to adopt it, our lifestyle. But the good thing is, by making those adoptions, we can secure a sustainable quality of life for a long period of time.
So there's greater satisfaction than that, I would have thought. And we've been reminded other stories here. Try to ignore the short-term gloom that Cathy Dixon in the Irish News today, and they're talking firms reminded to look to the future, all of that. So it's about the future, short-term tightness. If we build for a future, it's going to be so much better.
It is, but I think being realistic, I think what you're hearing is, and you have to acknowledge this, that foreign direct investment will grow with tax. Equally, our own indigenous businesses will grow if they export more. I think there has to be, if we're being realistic, of looking at the British government's austerity measures, which are planned, to be honest with you, to the end of 2019, 2020. Acknowledging, by the way, that the British economy is outperforming the rest of Europe. Not the south of Ireland, because of the low base it was coming from. Ironically, the south is, again, which is dangerous, is going to go against the average economic cycle of the euro area. When the euro was doing well a while ago, the south wasn't. Now the south is going to do well again, expected. I think the very credible economists are now forecasting the south is going to achieve growth between 3 to 4% for the next 2, 3, 4 years. That's a phenomenal level of growth.
We're nowhere at that plate.
Well, you got to remember, part of the reason for that is that we didn't take the hard decisions over the last 4 years at public sector. Unfortunately, we haven't had the courage to address public sector spending within the public sector. And what that has meant is, don't get me wrong, I understand the implications. It could mean job losses. But the bottom line is, if we don't create a stronger private sector, we won't create the wealth that's required to fund health and to fund education. And I think long term, you've heard me say this before, it cannot be good that the entire strategy of a lot of politicians would appear to be, let's continue to increase the gravy train from London. This is not good for us. And therefore, we have to provide the mechanism which encourages people to work. If you're going to encourage people to work, you have to be able to provide the work. You're not going to be able to provide the work if you don't have a competitive environment. And therefore, we have to be really careful that we move away from the excessive dominance we have in the public sector.
Is Robinson beginning to bite at this apple when he said during the week 160 million savings if he can institute a voluntary redundancy scheme within the public sector? Is that the start of a realization that what's happening is not sustainable?
It is, but it's again a bit of a fudge, because we're taking no decisions. We're letting people keep them take their voluntary redundancies. Do you get me?
Yeah. But if they took those and sort of invested them into private sector development,
what that will do ultimately is, unless we get a realization of service levels, if you take 6,000 or 7,000 people out of employment, you will reduce services. So I think the big issue is that's not we may have to accept that, but the big issue is maybe we need to transfer services from the public to the private sector. If you look at absenteeism, why is our absenteeism level so high in the public sector relative to the private?
Yeah.
Why is it the self-employed people have the lowest level of absenteeism? Somebody said it's the best health plan you can put in any workforce. So what I'm really saying here is that it's back to integrity and honesty.
Yeah.
It's back to being realistic, and we all see it. We cannot have the surpluses of the luxury of people believing they have the right, God-given right to
get something. Almost.
But people have the right in a welfare state, which I fully support, by the way. I support the welfare state. I think it's really important.
Yeah, but not the abuse of it.
But not the abuse of it.
This is the significant thing. I'm going to play. Have you anything more before I play you the lovely Lorena McKennett? She's a Canadian folk singer. She's going to sing Marco Polo for you.
Well, on a high note, I can tell you that today is the commencement in detail of the planning for the Newry Business Christmas charity dinner.
Wow, fantastic.
I can equally tell you that I won't be here next Tuesday, unfortunately. I'm at a conference, business conference in Montreal.
Wow, good. You were able to tell us all about it the following week.
Yes, and I can tell you that the Northern Ireland Small Firms Association are holding their gala ball here on Saturday week in the Canal Court Hotel, which again is a big first. And there's also a big conference. Here in Newry tomorrow. Newry's hosting the Minister, etc. tomorrow for small businesses, and they're coming from all over the north tomorrow.
Wow,
to Newry. The Chamber of Commerce are hosting it jointly. So there's a lot happening, and I would be optimistic as always within any background that raises challenges. There are opportunities for people.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Pray silence now, and do enjoy Lorena McKennett, Marco Polo. Thank you.
Thank you,
Go
Ron.
well.
Cheers.
Take
Bye.
care.